Exposure matters. It makes you more comfortable. It gives you self-confidence. It gives you belief in yourself. You know you can do it if you've done it.
It's episode 118 of the Studio Sherpas podcast, where our number one goal is to help you grow your video business. Hey, if you don't know who I am Ryan Cockerell, the man with some kickin' allergies. Holy cow. Yeah, I sound like a DJ who's stuffed up or something. So I have a video production company here in the Metro Detroit area in the state of Michigan, in the great state of Michigan. And my aim with this show is to invite you into a greater community of filmmakers, inspire you to charge what you're worth, and ultimately create a business that doesn't just survive, but thrives. And today you're in for a treat. This is one of my favorite leadership people on the planet. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just spent an hour with this guy. Super cool. And a lot of people don't even, I don't know if you know him or not, but for whatever reason, I was introduced to him about 6 years ago via a suggestion on a book I should read. I read that book I listened to that book and was just blown away at all of the leadership ideas, tips, tricks, techniques, things to just how to be a better boss, how to be a better worker, human, all of those things. And so Lee Cockerell, the guy worked at Disney for a super long time he was like head of operations. So that's like a big, important job. And man, there's so many nuggets in this episode. And so anyway, I don't even care if you don't appreciate him being on the show, but for me, it was just a huge blessing to have this guy who I've known of for a long time. And it's just one of those, like, how did this even happen? But we hung out, and it was his 75th birthday today. We were supposed to do the episode yesterday, but he had something come up, and he's like, hey, let's do it tomorrow at 11 a.m. And so we show up at 11 a.m., and he's like, oh, hey, and, we're talking. He's like, oh, yeah, and it's my birthday, and 75. And I'm like, dude, it's your birthday, and you're doing this podcast? So anyway, I hung out with Lee Cockerell on his birthday. That's kind of my claim to fame. Anyway, here are the things that we talked about today. The best legacy that you can leave your kids. And coming from someone who has lived a full and adventurous life, these are the nuggets that you don't want to miss. Also, why being a jack of all trades will only get you so far, but becoming an expert will get you further than anything else. How a former Disney exec defines success, and it might actually surprise you. And then Lee also talks about the 3 things to making the biggest impact on culture inside of a business, and the first rule of customer service, and it's not that the customer is always right. You should walk away from this episode with some very actionable things that can raise your customer service level. If you have employees or want to hire employees, some very clear do's and don'ts, and hopefully just an overall excitement to remember that the work that you do matters, but the way that you interact with people matters even more. So let us dive into this magical episode with Lee Cockerell. Hey guys, welcome to the Studio Sherpas podcast, where we help you grow your video business. Today, I just posted on Facebook. I said, I'm about to interview one of my leadership heroes, and I didn't know if I should throw up then or try to hold it in or do both. But I'm super, super excited to have Lee Cockerell with us today. Lee is the retired executive vice president of the Walt Disney World Resort, one of my favorite places on the planet, a position that he held for 10 years. And before Disney, Lee spent 8 years with Hilton Hotels and Marriott International. He is the author of 4 books on leadership, management, and customer service, and also hosts a 15-minute podcast called Creating Disney Magic. And special mention here, it is his 75th birthday today. So Lee, welcome to the show and happy birthday. I'm not going to sing for you, but we're so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much. It's a good way to spend my birthday. Thank you.
That's the spirit. So in 2013, I was checking my Audible to see when I actually downloaded Creating Magic and listened to it. The subtitle is 10 Common Sense Leadership Strategies from a Life at Disney. Huge impact on my life. So many good sort of leadership tips, tricks, techniques, and really what I love so much about it, and as I've learned more and more about you, this idea that people matter and that everyone is important. That just resonates so much with why I started doing video, 15 years ago, because I wanted to be able to tell people stories, people that didn't have the know-how to tell their story, people that didn't think that their story was important. So that book resonated with me a ton. So first off, I just want to say thanks for writing the book and creating your podcast. But more importantly, thank you so much for the profound impact that you have had on so many people. Just like the stories that you share in your book about the managers and the people in your life that helped guide you. You have done that for so many people. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Are you married?
I am married, 16 years.
Does your wife think that she's important?
She does. She would say that. I think she would answer yes.
There you go. So you're on the right track. You might make it. I've been married 50 years this year. So
oh my gosh, this is
my wife said she's going to stay. So I know I'm doing a good job.
I know that's people are like, how's your marriage? How are you guys doing? And I always say, well, I think we're doing fine. And then I will tell them what I think my wife would say as honestly as possible, because I think that's probably more true.
That's right. You probably rate it a little higher than she does.
Right. So bring us up to speed. Like how you, would you say that you're retired or sort of semi-retired?
Actually, I am retired, but I started, I had to have something to do. I couldn't help Kim Kardashian, so I started writing books, and I really enjoy it. I always thought I had something in me I could share with people after 42 years of really 3 great companies in my life. And I finally got the nerve to do it. And now, first book, Creating Magic's in 18 languages. It's all over the world, and it makes a difference. And when I hear from people like you that say it helped them, that's kind of my juice. People say, Lee, why do you keep speaking since you're retired? And I says, because people clap, and I need to be loved. I'm insecure. When I play golf, nobody claps. Right. So I found something to do that I now only do things that make me feel good. So I don't play golf. That doesn't make me feel good. And I don't mow the lawn. And this is what I like to do. And I must tell you and all your listeners, the best satisfaction you'll get when somebody thanks you for helping them along the way. And, they won't forget it. You will, because you may help a lot of people, but people never forget when you help them. And that's what I finally learned. So I like to do it. It's fun. That's awesome. They pay me. And they pay you
on top of it.
Yeah. People call me and say, will you tell us the secrets of Disney? I say, sure, if you pay me.
So I love that part of your story, because I feel like for so many people, especially creatives, to share something or to think that they have something to offer, so you get to this point in your career where you feel like, hey, I'm going to write a book on the things that I learned. I imagine that at least maybe at one point in your career, there was some insecurity to kind of say like, hey, here's what worked, here's what didn't. I got some things right and definitely learned from my mistakes. But take me to that moment for you where you said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to share with people the things that I learned, including, getting hit with bottles and, stitches and
Yeah, I think, I went through my career and I was a pretty good manager, and I was successful at Hilton and Marriott. And then I learned a lot at Marriott about how to treat people, which I really needed to learn because I didn't really know how to do that so much. I was kind of a taskmaster in the early days, and I was very organized and disciplined, which really frightens people because I actually followed up and they couldn't make me go away. So as I got more and more and more, I started seeing the results I started teaching time management. I started teaching courses to my employees and my managers, and I got great feedback on that. And then I started writing a newsletter for Disney, and it went out to 50,000 cast members every Friday, and I got great feedback on that because I gave them things to think about around their own personal lives, safety, how to take care of the guests, how to be a better leader, better parent, and that was good. So when I decided to retire, I asked my boss, I told him I wanted to write a book about Disney leadership, and I was able to get that approved through corporate legal, and I did it. I found a literary agent in New York who was my wife's college roommate at American University in D.C. when they were 19 years old, and now she's a big publicist, and she's a big literary agent. and she worked with Jackie Kennedy and Bishop Tutu and all these people. And she took on my work, and she's made it happen all over the world now. Oh. So, contact here, contact there, and then just sitting down and writing everything I could think about what I wish I'd have done better in my career, what I wish people would do better, things you ought to think about, because it's better to learn them early through a book than it is to learn them through the disasters that happen to people that don't know what they're doing. And so that's how I did it. And I wrote it and worked with a professional writer. I said 4 books, but I don't know where the commas go. So I had to hire him to put the commas and the semicolons and the colons and all that stuff I didn't pay much attention to in college and in high school. I just kind of went, I went to college for 2 years, but I forgot to go to class. So I didn't really learn much. But you can always find an expert to help you. So I just hire experts. I don't know anything. I just hire people to help me, and they do. And that's what I tell people all the time. You don't have to do anything. You just got to get it done. And you don't have to know anything. There's a lot of experts. And then you got Google in your pocket. So anything you don't know is your own fault.
Right.
And so it's been fun. And I think being a teacher is probably the best legacy you can leave in life for your kids and for people that work with you, that we all remember those great teachers. And we need less bosses and more teachers. We got all these bosses trying to tell us what to do, and they don't even know what they're doing themselves. So that's I have a kind of a problem with authority. So I don't really work well with people that don't know what they're doing. And so I'm into people getting more experience and exposure in their life than just a college education. Yeah. So they know what they're doing. And so that's kind of my story. Well, then I wrote the second book, and then the third one, and the fourth one, and yeah, that's it.
Love it. So for those that don't know the story, give us a peek at your career. My level of respect for Disney, having had the opportunity to go there a number of times. I love, the experiences that we have, with the rides and all of the, all the attractions, but I always do. I'm just mesmerized by the way that the people are. I love watching the operation. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why I was just so drawn to you and to your work, is to kind of like hear the, the inner workings of how the what should be chaos is somehow organized and it works. Right. There in the position that you were in, that there was a lot of pressure, there was a lot of moving parts. Share what were some of the big things along the way that helped you land there and throughout your career there.
Well, I think a couple things. One, I became an expert in the food and beverage business. I was in it for 25 years. I really knew it well. I could run food and beverage businesses anywhere in the world. And so as I got to become an expert, people want you in certain jobs to help them fix things. And I got recruited by Disney eventually from Marriott because I had a lot back. They wanted me to open the restaurant businesses in Paris, France. And so I got hired for that and went there. And then I got promoted into running the hotels and then back to Disney World to run Disney World operations. And I always tell people, become an expert in something. At least and then you can expand. So you always have something to fall back on in case that you don't get that promotion, you don't get that opportunity, because experts always find a job. And so I did that. And I think going to France was a huge learning experience for me, because I really tell people over and over that I call them the 3 E's. If you want excellence, you got to have education. And that's either formal or this curiosity to keep learning every day and on the job and asking questions and every day going home knowing more than you did when you got in, or go to college, which I probably is the best idea. And then experience, getting different experiences. So I had experience in the food business at Hilton. I worked in freestanding restaurants. Then I worked for Marriott 17 years. My wife and I moved 11 times. We've lived everywhere in the world. We had a great time. She moved 12 times with her dad, who was in the Navy. So we've liked everywhere we lived. And so you got to think about education, experience, and then exposure. Being exposed to other people. Get out of your village. Don't hang around the village where everybody's like you. And I said, if you hang around white people, you'll think they're all the good people. If you think around, have dinner with people that tell me, oh, those Muslims are a problem. I said, have you had any over for dinner? And they said, no. I said, well, do you know any? No. Well, there you go. That's your problem. And so when I grew up in Oklahoma, everybody was a problem, black people, Native Americans, Muslims, Jews, even Episcopalians were a problem. and I learned that's not true because I got out of the village. And I've been all over the world. I'd never been anywhere till I was 20 years old. I was in Oklahoma, and I've been to 44 countries. I know people all over the world. I know that people all over the world have babies, and they love them, and families. I just get totally annoyed at when people say somebody's a problem. Yeah, there are individuals that are a problem, but don't treat people like individuals, not like everybody in that group or, everybody from New York's a problem. No, some people are. Everybody from Oklahoma's no, some people are. And so that's how I kind of started thinking about things. And that became a big part of my leadership style, to take an organization and make sure that I was creating the right environment and culture so that everybody wakes up in the morning and knows they matter. And I don't care where you are, what job you have. I used to wake up in the morning. I was a cook in the Army, and everybody treated me well because I had the food and they wanted it. And my whole career, I've tried to treat everybody the same and as an individual and get to know people. That exposure, getting exposed to getting in uncomfortable positions, overcoming obstacles in your life, moving to a foreign country, that's an obstacle. Moving to New York City when you've never been out of Oklahoma, that's an obstacle. Learning what cufflinks are and crazy stuff. And getting your first tuxedo because you work in the Waldorf Astoria. And so all that exposure, I told my son recently, the reason he's so successful in his business is because he's been exposed to the whole world through us. So last night he went to Washington yesterday, and he had a seminar, and last night he flew to Spain, and tomorrow he'll fly to Washington again and go to, because he's very comfortable from the exposure he's had. It's no big deal. He flew to London, had a 45-minute layover, got on the plane, went there, he called to wish me a happy birthday this morning. He'll get on the plane in the morning, come back. Hey, most people won't do that because they're terrified. And exposure matters. It makes you more comfortable, gives you self-confidence. It gives you belief in yourself. You can do it if you've done it. And so those are the kind of things I try to preach more than, technical expertise, but that's no big deal. We can all learn that over time, but it's how you deal with people, how you deal with yourself. Yeah. Do you have the confidence to take risks, or do you just want to live a little safe life in your little village and then wonder what happened? So I don't want to have any regrets. So we do a lot of crazy stuff. And we spend 3 weeks in Mexico. We're planning a trip to Egypt next. Oh, man. And they might kill me, but it's okay. I'm old enough now. I can die. And I don't want to say, I wish I'd have seen the permits. I want to see them, And I've been to Vietnam, and I went to Baghdad during the war, did work for the Army. People say, are you crazy? I said, well, maybe, but I got stories you don't have. Yeah. And my grandkids think I'm pretty cool because I've been in the green zone. So that's just kind of fun we have. And, it's made my son an adventurer. My grandkids are big adventurers. They've been everywhere in the world. They speak French. They speak Spanish. They speak English. They don't see color. They don't care if you're gay, black, blue, green. They could care less. And that's because we created that culture and environment in our family that everybody matters. And so that's kind of the long and short of it. If you don't think everybody matters, then I probably don't want to be friends with you. Yeah. And if you don't think everybody ought to have free health care and education, then I definitely don't want to know you. So, because I had health care. My wife got sick a few years ago, and the bill was $700,000. Yeah. People say, well, everybody shouldn't have health care. Well, luckily I had it, and Disney paid for it. But what if I hadn't? Or kids can't go get health care. I don't want to deal with people like this, whether my relatives or my friends. That kind of lack of empathy, I can't handle. Empathy and discipline's the name of the game in life. And so that's just how I think, and it pisses a lot of people off.
Yes.
And I don't want people coming in my house with guns on their Don't be bringing guns in here, having and drinking alcohol, and somebody getting shot. No, I'm not afraid of anybody. I got a golf club I can hit somebody with if they get in my house, but I'm not going to that. I know too many idiots. I don't want them to have a gun. I mean, America is pretty much full of idiots, and now we're going to give them guns and a couple of drinks and a beer. I mean, come on. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah. Well, with all of the work at Disney and, especially through Creating Magic, as you're talking about the hurricane and just the big things that you guys had to overcome as a culture, what would you say makes the biggest impact on culture for business? And when I say culture, I mean, I guess that could mean not just like the people that you work with, but also the people that you're serving.
Yeah, well, I mean, the three things that make the difference at Disney, and they would make the difference in any of your listeners' business, and it's pretty simple, but people would have trouble with simplicity. And first of all, we hire better. We don't hire idiots. We really take our time. We look for the right people. We screen them. We're very careful. We're very clear with them about our expectations before we hire them, so there's no misunderstandings. We tell them they're probably going to hate their job because it's hard, but it'll pay off later, getting experience and get promoted. So we hire better. And then we're very clear with them. Huge clarity. That's what most people don't do. They're not clear. And then you tell them they got to work Saturday night and Sunday morning, and they get that look on their face. No, people will start at Disney. They know exactly. It's holidays, Christmas, Saturday, Sunday, overtime. And the second thing we do is we train better. We train everybody, we test them, and then we enforce the training, which most businesses don't do. They train them, and then they don't know if they really learned anything because they don't test them to make sure. We don't practice on our guests. We make sure you know what you're doing before we turn you loose on them. And then our managers enforce the training, just like parents enforce it at home. You got rules, you follow the rules. If you don't like the rules, you get to go down the street to that other place and work, and you don't have to work here. And a lot of people can't work here. So we train better. I would say we hire better, we train better, and we treat them better. We have a culture where people wake up in the morning excited to come to work because of how they're respected, included, involved, listened to, their opinion counts, respect for everybody, opportunity for everybody. Most of our promotions come from within. If you do a great job, you have a chance. We have probably 400 to 500 openings every year in management, and we're able to take those people. You can just drive to a new parking lot, and your career can keep going up. You don't have to move to New York or LA or Chicago. And we take people that don't even speak English. 5 years later, they're one of our managers because we put them in the English classes. We make sure they learn. So we hire better. I say hire them right, treat them right, or hire them right, train them right, and treat them right, and you'll have a good organization. That's, if you're not committed to your people, they're not going to be committed to you. And they know if you're committed to them or not. Your wife knows if you're committed to her. She knows. You may not know, but she knows. And she will point that out if you start doing stupid things. And so it's that simple, really. The technical expertise is easy to find. We can hire people all day long because people want to work for Disney. The hard part's getting the right people and then training them, because that costs money and time and effort. Yeah. And then culture's hard. It's hard to treat everybody like they matter and that they know they matter. That's the key. You can love your wife, but she needs to know you love her. That comes in many forms. Great. And so we just do that better. And I would tell all your listeners that ought to go back and think about those three things. Are you really careful hiring people? Really? Are you getting rid of people that you make mistakes on? Or do you have people in your company right now, which everybody listening does? They have people that shouldn't be there. Don't hire your relatives because they're hard to fire. And then make sure they're educated, because it's like you. The most important two things you're going to worry about for your children are their safety and their education. That's it. That's going to be your big worries your whole life. And you're part of that education. College is part of that. But safety is you teaching them how to be safe and keep them safe, because that's the biggest responsibility you have. And people try to overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
As my wife said, if you love me, tell me. Don't keep it to yourself. Right?
That's good.
And so you got to think about that. You tell your kids every day you love them.
Yeah.
And then we forget about our wives because, well, we told them when we got married that day. And 50 years later, I said, oh, yeah, I guess I ought to tell you again. All right.
Yeah, right.
So
I dropped my middle schooler off at school this morning. I drive him to school, and
yeah.
He told me that he hated me.
Well, how old?
He's 11.
Oh, yeah, he's going to hate you more in a couple of years.
That was the first
everybody
time he ever said that. This was a big day for me.
Well, actually, he probably is going to hate you so much you can't believe it, and then one day he'll love you again. I mean, I hated my mother too, and basically because she was strict and she wouldn't let me do anything I wanted. So, and mothers and fathers are the best leaders because they don't care if you're happy; they care if you're successful. So you're going to have some bad days as a child, and you don't have to be happy every day. You got to just do what you're told and learn. And so it's good to laugh it off because, hey, that's the way it goes. And by the way, he's going to be more unhappy this weekend. Right?
Yep.
So whatever. I'm sure you know why he hates you right now. But, yeah, I hated my mother from the time I was 13 to about 18. I didn't like her at all.
Yep.
I didn't think she loved me. But it turns out she did.
Yeah, I probably gave you wise counsel, but it just those years hard to.
So I said you don't have to be happy to work at Disney. You got to act happy for 8 hours. So Disney's the happiest place on earth, or else. You can tell your kids that.
I had a friend. He's got a big family. He told me this a few years ago. He took his family to Disney, and there's always the kids crying and mom and dad trying to cheer the kid up or whatever. He came up behind one dad and whispered in his ear. He's like, "Feeling the magic?"
Yeah. Actually, I often ask children when they're standing in line with their parents. I said, "Did you children thank your parents for bringing you here today?" And they look at me like, "Are you crazy?" Right. Except parents and kids don't talk anymore. They're all on their phones. So that's
that's a whole other.
Being in line at Disney is a good time to meet your family, to get to know them better.
Well, when we think about customer service, right? So big focus on having a better business is really focusing on culture. Customer service, if you don't have that, I mean, that you're just dead in the water. What was the turning point in your career that you learned that customer service was essential to the success of your success and the success of wherever it was that you were working?
Well, I learned it pretty early because I was a waiter. And when you're a waiter, your pocket is either full of money or empty at the end of the night. So you got to really treat people well. And I figured out the better I treated them, the more money I made. So that kind of got me going. And then also people going and telling your boss, wow, what a great waiter he was. He did this, he did that. He paid attention to my children, whatever. And so, and then eventually I was lucky probably. I worked for Hilton, Marriott, Disney. Those are three, they focus on, it's about the brand. It's about the customer, the employees are your people. At the end of the day, your people are your brand. They're what the customer sees. I told somebody at FedEx, I did a lot of work for them. I said, FedEx to me only means one thing: the driver who brings the package to my front door. That's all I know. Yeah. And that's all I care about. I don't care about the CEO or the shipping department. I care about nothing except that man. And he is the face for me. As Disney cast members are the face of Disney. And they represent you like your children are the face of your family. And if they're using profanity in the car at 11, you probably taught them that. So that's how I think about it. It's just, the definition of hospitality is serving strangers. And that's what we do. And as a human, as you're out and about every day, you can be nice to strangers. You don't have to try to push them off the road because they wanted to get in the highway before you did. And everybody's got a gun now, so I'd let them go, by the way, But just be nicer. You can either be nice or not. I mean, hey. And when you're nicer, better things happen to you in your life. And you don't get shot, which is pretty good, too.
That is good.
Yeah. So my granddaughter, I said, what's the most important thing in customer service, Margot? She was 12. She said, Pappy, the first rule is be nice.
Mm.
And, couldn't we all do that better? Really? Really? Because everybody's got 10 problems you don't know about. They're not mad at you. They're mad at their mother died and their house is on foreclosure and their kids are on drugs, and they get mad at you because the steak took 2 minutes longer to get to the table. So that's not why they're mad. They're mad because of 10 things you don't know about. So I just let it go. I said, remember that song, Frozen, Let It Go? You ought to sing that every time your wife aggravates you. Just let it go. And let it go with your son hating you today.
Yeah,
he'll love you more when he needs $20. So
right, yeah, exactly. Or when he wants his phone back. That's really
right. Phone back. That's why he hates you.
Yep, it is.
Yeah, good for you. You didn't. My son sold my grandson's Xbox.
Yeah,
they talked about it over and over and over about doing your home or not. And one day my grandson said, "Well, where's my Xbox?" Daniel said, "I sold it."
Yeah,
that got his attention. Now we're going to say, when we say, all you got left's a phone. Mm-hmm. You might want to do your homework because you might be phoneless soon. Yep. So you got to do what you got to do. They got to learn discipline. They got to learn to do what they're supposed to do and not what they want to do. Right. Like adults, we all have time to do what we want, but not what we should do. That's the problem in life.
Teach them early.
We don't want to do the hard things.
Yeah.
And of course, all kids lie, so they'll tell you anything to, as Judge Judy said, kids lie from the time they're awake till they go to sleep. And all children lie. The best liars are about 11 to 15, 16. And the 7 or 8 year olds are making steady progress. They're getting there quick. If they got an older brother, they're being taught to lie.
Exactly. Yeah. That's interesting. That played out.
Here's what you tell mom and dad. They'll fall for anything.
Oh man, I know one of the things that you are great at teaching is time management. And I would say for some of our listeners, they're solopreneurs, they're by themselves, and time management. Gosh, I was going to say, I don't know if it's more crucial if you're by yourself. It obviously is super important, but what kind of tips, thoughts would you have regarding time management?
Yeah, I think it's important for everybody, big or small, company or organization, or just taking care of your family life and responsibilities in your personal life too. Because if you don't take the time to plan the life you want, you're going to end up spending a lot of time living a life you don't want. How many people do you know are living a life they don't want? They're 30, 40, 50, and they're like screwed up, and they didn't spend their time in the right place, and they didn't think about the long-term effects. And I think the big problem I have is they don't teach it in high school and college. They don't teach kids how to think about scheduling their time, what to schedule, and how to follow a plan. So at the end of the day, they know what they got done and what they didn't and what they need to do tomorrow or stay late tonight, or because everybody basically does what they want to do and they don't do what they have to do. Like I would say that main things you got to think about every day is your spouse, your wife, your kids. What do you need to do for them today or this month, and get the kids into camp, or get that college fund open, or take them for their inoculations, or go up and see their teachers, how they're doing 3 or 4 times a year. So you're getting more, talk to them about the birds and the bees when they're 8 or 9 years old, because you screw that one up, your life will really be in trouble. Yep. And then you got to talk with aging parents and grandparents. Are you dealing with that now? Talking to them, getting that all set up, get your wills signed, your own career. What are you doing? You going back to school? You're going to get another experience. Exercise, taking care of your health. Most people are not doing that. It's going to be the biggest regret they have. My wife and I do strength training twice a week because bone density. I don't want to fall and break a hip. Yeah. And I'm in the ozone, the obituary zone, 75. 75 is not a good place to be, man. Look in the paper. They're gone. And I'm here. And, strength is really important. And also, my wife and I named it prehab, so we don't have to go to rehab. And we're not going to fall. If we do fall, we're going to get up and not break a bone. So we pay attention to doing the things that'll pay off later. Get your retirement in place now. You don't get it. Maybe it won't pay off for 30, 40 years, but if you don't get going now, it won't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Just all the things you got. It's like your kids. There's certain things you got to do at certain times. I mean, you got to bond with them when they're born and hug them and love them and tell them. And then you got to start teach them to read and read to them. And then you got to start disciplining them. And then it's just certain things in a certain order. So every day people need to be getting the urgent things done first. Yeah. And then the important things, or the vital things, and the important things. And it's a system. And I said every morning, think about what should I be doing so that I don't end up not getting it done and somebody forgetting and not doing what I'm supposed to do. Or, it's just, it's a great system. Time management, how to keep your life under control, your whole life. And most people don't have a clue. Yeah. And so they need to get into this. It's a big deal. Time management magic, how to keep your life on track.
Have you read Eat That Frog?
I have, yeah.
It was just recommended this week to me by a friend, and we were talking about like starting our day. It's like, all right, toughest thing, hardest thing that you don't want to do, like just start your day right there.
Well, your listeners ought to listen. Biggest problem we have in life is people don't want to do the hard things. They don't want to have the hard discussions because they're hard. It's hard to exercise. It's easy to lay on the couch. It's hard to save your money. It's easy to spend your money. It's hard to let your kids go running around crazy and not sit down and, your son's, taking his phone away is hard because, you don't want him to be upset, but there's so many. Going back to the buffet is easy. Taking one portion is hard. Just think about not having a discussion with somebody at work because it's going to be tough and they're going to cry and be upset. And no, that's your responsibility. Have hard discussions, make hard decisions, and life gets easier. Yeah. Take the easy route, life gets harder. Yeah. And so quit avoiding those hard things because it'll bite you and they'll bite you hard. And that's how I think about time management. I don't want to be in a situation where I screwed up somebody's life because I didn't do what I'm going to do, especially kids, your children. If they're screwed up, it's your fault.
One of my favorite things to tell people, especially I try to tell all my employees, listen, like if somebody else does something here that offends you, that you don't agree with, whatever, talk to them. And here's how you can open that conversation. Start with, hey, this is really awkward, or hey, this is really hard for me to say. And then, people's guards are let down, and it's just way easier to have those really hard conversations when you let them know, like, this is not easy for me.
That's a great way to do it. And I tell people, when you give feedback to either your kids or to an employee, it doesn't need to be a major event. Yeah. If you got somebody coming to work late every day, you see them and you say, hey, step in the office. It should take 40 seconds. Yep. I've noticed you've been coming to work late every day, John. Have you noticed that? And he says, yeah. I said, well, what's the problem? Well, traffic. Yeah. I said, okay, that's got to stop. Do you understand? You're doing a great job. We love you here, but don't be late anymore. You got it? That's it. It's over. Yeah. And that was very clear. It was 40 seconds. You didn't have to spend 3 weeks getting ready for this conversation. Right. Just like your mother and your dad just tell you that now. They're not gonna wait for your annual review. Right.
Yeah. No, I think that's super good advice and definitely overlooked, because it's like, shoot, if I could just 30 seconds, we don't need it. It doesn't need to be this bigger than, it's just like, right. That's the thing, like, and then move on. And if it continues to be a thing, then like, maybe it's a longer discussion of like, how do we fix this together? But hey, I was curious.
If they're having a problem, they'll tell you. But I think saying this, have you noticed that you haven't been going to work? Have you noticed the way you speak to people in meetings? Have you noticed, how you look when you come in here in the morning? Have you noticed how you talk on the phone to our customers? Don't do that anymore. Unless you got a really good reason, tell me, and I'll take you off duty for a while till you can get it together. And I think that's it. My mother, she just whacked us and went on with the day, and we learned. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That whole idea of like having a plan for the day. In the last few podcasts, I keep bringing this up because for me, the past month and a half, I've been doing, I don't know if you're familiar with Brennan Bouchard. He has a planner called the High Performance Planner. And there's it takes me about 15 to 20 minutes in the morning, but I lay out my schedule for the day. I'm writing it out. I'm thinking about the conversations, the hard conversations I might have that day, the goals, like how I want to be that day. For me, that's been a great framework to approach the day and really try to win the day. And then at the end of the day, there's a little spot for reflection. So you can look to see, what went well, what didn't go well. I'm just curious, do you have a routine that you do, or a framework that you work from?
I do, actually. And if your listeners want this, we have a morning planner kind of a model, and they can text model morning planner, the word morning planner, one word, to 442222. And they can get it. And it basically, you look at it and it's got all the things you should be thinking about in your life on it. And you say, okay, who would I like to recognize today? Maybe your wife, maybe somebody at work. What do I need to be working on now that won't pay off till later? What do I need to do with my health? What do I need? Maybe it's an annual physical. You need to make an appointment, whatever. So that morning planner, and I do that. I mean, I go every morning. I get up at around 5:30, and I go to Starbucks around 6:30 until 7:30. I do my planning. I read the newspaper. If I'm behind in some work, I take my laptop with me and knock it out. And then 7:30, I meet with people that want to meet with me, and we talk. I do that every single morning. If I'm not at Starbucks by 6:30, they call the police. There's something happened to me. So yeah, routine is really important in life, by the way, in my opinion. Routine. Whatever it is, brush your teeth, this, that, routine of inspecting your business, routine of meeting with your employees, routine of appreciating people, a routine of people knowing when they see you, it's going to be positive, not negative all the time. So routine is a big deal. And it's kind of boring routine, but it pays off. If you follow routines of you get your car, the oil changed on time, you don't have to buy a new car. I mean, many things happen with routine. And management is about routine, keeping things under control. That's what management's about. So you got to manage your kids. You got to check when they're teenagers. You go in their room every half hour to see what they're up to. Yeah, my brother and I put up a centerfold of Playboy when we were about 13. My mother had it down in 20 minutes. She was in there checking on us all the time. We thought it was cool. And we didn't tell her we found it from my dad's car. But yeah, that kind of stuff, because kids will do anything.
Right.
When people say, I didn't know my son was building a bomb in his room. Well, have you been in his room lately?
Right.
Or I didn't know my daughter was on drugs. Have you looked at her eyes lately? Don't tell me you don't know. If you don't know, you don't want to know.
Yeah, right.
And I didn't know my wife was unhappy. Oh yeah. If you don't want to know, then you won't. If you do want to know, you'll know.
Yep.
And so it's being more sensitive, pay attention, start seeing instead of just looking.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, Lee, our time is up. I'm wondering do you have time for one more question?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last
I'm
question.
retired.
Yeah, but it's your birthday.
I know, but everybody left. My wife went out to lunch and left me here.
So if you could give one piece of advice to someone who wants to really focus on people and put people first in their business, what would you tell them? What would your recommendation be?
Well, I'd say the first thing is don't underestimate the influence you have with people every day. Making people feel good about themselves, giving a lot of appreciation, recognition, and encouragement to people. People need it. Everybody's insecure to some point, even strangers, your next door neighbor, somebody who works for you. You don't know all the stuff going on in their brain, that they're insecure, they grew up poor, they didn't get a college, they didn't do this. Who knows what's happened to them, and they're going through a bad marriage. Just don't underestimate the influence you have to prop people up and make them feel better and to help them get through their life. I mean, I help complete strangers every day. I had a lady call me yesterday, want me to help her get through her divorce. I'm going like, what? I mean, my wife said I'm going to get shot one day helping all these women get through their divorces, but she just didn't know. She doesn't know what to do, and I can help her. I know some people can hire her, give her a job, help her with some coaching, and so why not? I can either do it or not do it. So you can either help people or you cannot help people. It's a choice every day. And if you have the wherewithal and the time, just do it. And don't underestimate what you can achieve either. You can achieve a lot. When you're 20, you think you don't know anything. Here, 35 years later, I was running Disney World. Huh? And I was a terrible student. I mean, I don't know how I got out of school. They just I think in Oklahoma, they just passed everybody. Get them out of here. And I don't remember anything. I couldn't diagram a sentence. I didn't take geometry, algebra, trigonometry. I don't even think you had to, because none of us could pass it. So our parents didn't pay attention to our grades. So you do it through attitude, passion, and keep learning after you kind of wake up one day. And you can do it. Anybody can do it. You're going to be smarter every day or you're not. It's up to you. And you're going to have a good attitude or you're not. Or you're going to blame everybody else or you're not. And that's the kind of way I see it. Your happiness and your health is your problem, not everybody else's. And so when you buy it, you own it, things will get better. When you want to blame your mother or the weather or the government or the political parties or whatever, it's not going to get better. So that's all. Own it.
That's good.
Own it.
That's really good.
So everything matters. That's what I'll tell you. Everything matters if you want to be great. And you got to think about, are you doing everything excellent in your life, or are you just half-ass doing what you're supposed to be doing? Yeah. So
details. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Lee, where can people connect with you, follow what you're up to?
Well, they can go to leecockerell.com. That's everything in my life's on my podcast. That way I know where it is. I mean, it's on my website. And if they want to go to the podcast, it's Creating Disney Magic. And if they want that creating or morning planner, just text morning planner to 442222, and we'll get it off to you. And it's free, and the podcast is free, and free and discount are the two biggest words in America.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and we'll include all the stuff in the show notes as well. So for people listening, you can head to the show notes and grab that stuff there. Lee, this was a huge gift, man. Thank you I got to spend your birthday with you. This is amazing. This is a gift for me. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, and the legacy that you have built.
Call your parents and call your wife. Tell them how much you appreciate them. Take care. See you later.
For those of you who I'm Facebook friends with, saw my post maybe earlier that said I was super excited to record this. I wasn't sure if I was going to throw up or not. I did not throw up. I held it in. I was so happy that I did that. I wasn't that nervous, but I was nervous. Anyway, you can get all of the links and the things that Lee had talked about if you go to the show notes page, which is found at studiosherpas.com/118. And now it's time for a little nugget that was sent to us by our friend Kenneth George. This was a Facebook post. He said, Kenneth George is feeling pumped. Smiley face. Woo! Just finished going through the Sherpas course and excited to get to work. Just moved to Northeast Atlanta a couple weeks ago and joined the course a week ago today. So much learning and so much great information for how to start my business on the right foot. Lots of work ahead. Dude, I love that. Kenneth, thank you for sharing that. And that's just good to hear. That's the kind of stuff that keeps me going, keeps me saying like, hey, this is working. People are growing their business and they're excited to do it and they're learning and all of that. So thank you for sharing. Hey, if you like this show, you can share it with a friend. Would you share it? Would you share it with a friend that might get some out of it too? If you go to studiosherpas.com/iTunes, you can get the direct link to the show itself. You can also, while you're there, you can rate the show. If you want to give us a 1 through 5 star rating and give us a little comment, I like reading those on the show. That's always fun. And don't you feel bad for me? I've got a cold. I don't think it's cold. I think it's just my allergies. But yeah, you should go there and you should rate the show today. And then as always, we invite you to consider becoming part of our community, taking the training, all of the stuff that we've put together to help you learn how to grow a video business. All of that information you can find at studiosherpas.com/academy. It costs money. But what we found is when people put money into something like this kind of training, they're motivated to do it, and good things happen. So also comes with a 30-day guarantee. If it's just not working for you, or you're just not able to get success from it, then we'll give your money back. Next week, we have Kelsey Brennan from the YouTube channel Premier Gal. She also works at Whipster. She talks about what it's like to grow a YouTube channel to over 100,000 subscribers, how as video business owners, we should definitely be jumping onto that bandwagon, as well as some other practical ways to grow your video business and create better clients. You're not going to want to miss it. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and hopefully you didn't mind my sniffles too much, too many. Keep up the great work, my friend. You are loved beyond measure, and the work that you're putting into your business is worth it. Onward and upward.